Greetings. It is Monday, March the 23rd, in the rather eventful year of 2026. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Well, just as I was putting things together this morning, what happens? Donald Trump goes up on Truth Social, and in an announcement that was all capitals, he talks about the suspension of hostilities between the United States and Iran. I'm not sure if Israel is part of this, to be fair, for the next 5 days, because they are in talks. They are having discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran, and he thinks there might be, well, at least it's been indicated in the message, which he may or may not have written, that there may be some diplomatic solution to the current problem, which is a terrorist state that occupies Iran. All right. Let me first point something out that I've been saying for quite some time now. We really don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and anyone who says they do is probably not telling the truth, because if you leak information in wartime situations, it's frowned upon to the point of being called treason. We're going to have an awful lot of experts out there who are going to be giving their opinions of what could be going on. Well, a lot of things could be going on. We really don't know. Somebody could be threatening a nuclear weapon. The Russians or Chinese might be cutting a deal. We don't know. All we know is that things have stopped on the American side. Not really sure if things are going to be stopping on the Israeli side, but one might get that impression. Okay, before this news hit this morning, I was going to be presenting to you something rather interesting. I have never seen such radically different views of what is going on in a military conflict than what I have seen in the last few weeks. In the United States, if you watch the mainstream media and much of the alternative media, if not almost all of it, it's that we're on the verge of World War III, everything's coming to an end, the United States is going to collapse, world economy is going to go into the toilet. Everything, including the sky, is falling. Whereas if you check with the people in the Middle East who are on the ground, like I've been doing, and follow a lot of the sources of news coming out of the Iranian network, the diaspora, the people that have contacts there and have been sending out video, you'll think that things are going pretty well. They are actually shooting people in the street, not the Revolutionary Guards. It's the civilians that are doing the shooting in many places now. That's been coming out. The Iranian people could not be happier, unless, of course, the government there that has ruled them with the most brutal ruthlessness for 47 years is gone. You're getting two drastically different stories. Is the U.S. losing? Well, from what I can see, no. Is Iran losing? Very much. They're not winning. Now, I don't like speculation, but I'm going to point out something important. Once you get into a conflict like this, you have to take it all the way. Now, is this the best way to have gone about getting rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which needs to be gotten rid of in spite of what people like to think? No, there probably were better solutions out there that could have been better thought out. But once you get into a fight like this, you really have to win it. The real danger is if Trump cuts a deal with people who, quite frankly, you can't cut a deal with. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been at war with the United States since it came into being. It's just that a lot of American presidents didn't want to face that fact, and a lot of them actually wanted to kick the can down the road and sometimes paid the Iranians for the privilege. Mr. Obama and Mr. Biden, for example. So what do we look at here? Well, a lot of people like to claim that Donald Trump is always playing four-dimensional chess. In other words, he's doing something very clever and very, very well thought out. Now, there's a lot of bad information coming out of the Middle East, and a lot of it is funny. There was one video I saw of two fellows in a rubber boat near a very old oil tanker saying the Straits of Hormuz are closed. Well, that oil tanker, it turns out, has been sitting there for a year and is not filled with anything, and it probably wasn't even recorded near the Straits of Hormuz. Fascinating stuff. But there's just as much bad information coming out from either side. So Let's just think of what this 5-day breather is going to mean. Well, first off, it'll give the Iranians time to come up with a leader. But what would be a best case scenario would be what I call the Idi Amin option. Now, Idi Amin Dada was the ruling president, leader, generalissimo, madman who ran Uganda back in the 1970s. Literally liked eating human flesh. I mean, if there was ever an argument for keeping Africa colonized by Europe, it was him. He was a bad character. But overthrowing him was going to be a bloody mess, so there was a deal cut to let him go to Saudi Arabia with his entourage and his many wives and concubines and a lot of money and live like a king for the rest of his life. Fair to all the people he killed or ate in some cases? No. But it did save an awful lot of lives and it solved the problem. My hope, not a guess, not a prediction, my hope is that something like this is being worked out, where what is left of the Islamic Republic of Iran's government is going to be given the option to exit and do so with enough money so they can be set up for the rest of their lives, send their kids to Western schools, and, just generally get out of the way, buy them off. It's cheaper, probably, than some of the cruise missiles they fire off in a single day. Really, if you knew how much money was being spent right now and you're an American, you would be appalled. But $200 billion they're thinking it's going to cost, it's probably going to be a lot more than that. Wars are not cheap anymore, as if they ever were, but these are much more expensive than they used to be. And the U.S. doesn't have the money to begin with. That's the best case solution. The worst case solution is Trump makes a deal with these thugs and allows them to stay in power. That would be a catastrophe, not just for the Middle East, the Iranian people who will be slaughtered like pigs afterwards. You'll see a couple of 100,000 people killed if that happens, brutally. It'll be a disaster for the United States. It'll be a disaster for the world, because you will have this country that is operating under religious fundamentalism, fanaticism, insanity, Islamic insanity. It isn't even fundamentalism anymore. It's just insanity. They will come back stronger than ever. They will obtain nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, and they will try more than ever to export their view of the world and their view of the way people should live. If Trump cuts a deal with people you cannot cut a deal with, and you can't, there's no way you can cut a deal with the Iranians. There never was. They want to destroy the United States. They want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy the West. They were funding terrorism all over the world. All the crazy problems that we are experiencing now began in 1979 when Jimmy Carter, cursed be his name, abandoned the Shah, decided that some more quote-unquote liberal government would be better, and it's been downhill ever since. No, if Trump cuts a deal, then it must not allow the Islamic Republic of Iran to continue. My guess is the Israelis would not go along with such a deal. And quite frankly, the United States is run by Israel. People are calling it the United States of Israel at some point. Well, I don't think it's that bad yet, but it's pretty bad. They control a lot of our politicians, and they boast about it. But they've been taking pretty heavy hits from these missiles. In fact, one came very close to their nuclear facility in the southern part of their country. Came very close to hitting it, hit a neighborhood, didn't kill anybody, injured a lot of people. But they've been pulverized. But then again, the American taxpayer is going to help them rebuild, so not such a big deal in many ways. What we are looking at is not information coming out, folks. What we are looking at is the battle of the agendas. People will take the side of Iran because they hate Israel, which is foolishness. Iran is a very evil, evil operation right now. The Iranian people, and I've been in touch with a fair number of them recently, they are fighting. the son of the late Shah, is going to be, Reza Pahlavi, is going to be probably showing up in Iran before the fight is finished. I mean, there's a lot of talk about that, and he's been very, very vocal online, but he's been pretty much ignored by the Trump administration, at least publicly. One would hope that he's dealing with it behind the scenes. Now, what I want people to do is this. Please stop looking at the mainstream media. I'm just saying that for your own sanity, because my information, I think, is better than theirs. Theirs is twisted. You would think that the world's coming to an end, that the United States is going to be totally defeated. No, it's not that bad. It's not great, but it's not that bad. Peace does not mean there's not a war going on. Peace means that there's a stable situation where people can live in relative safety and security. And if the Islamic Republic of Iran is allowed to continue, mark my words, we are going to regret it, as will our children and our grandchildren. Another thing, too, I'd like to point out, if they had nuclear weapons, they would be used by now. If they had a very extensive third column operation set up in the United States, it would have been activated by now. So chances are those two predictions were not true. Remember, a lot of the talking heads you're seeing, especially retired people, who have been in the military or been in intelligence or been in business or just have an opinion, are no longer in the loop. I guarantee you that. If you're an old retired intelligence officer or Army officer or something and you have quote-unquote connections, the people that really do know are not going to be talking to these guys. Not going to happen. No matter what people say about their sources. Mine are just typical people on the ground in that part of the world. But in times of war, soldiers, they're trained to do one thing, is to keep their mouth shut. So it's important to follow what's going on. But there's another thing, too, that should be pointed out, is as soon as Trump sent that message out, oil prices began to drop and the stock market shot through the ceiling. Boy, did it ever shoot up. I don't know what it's at now, but I'll tell you what, if you had money in the market, you had oil futures set up in the right way, you just made a lot of money. Somebody did. I'm not saying there's any insider trading going on, but come on. What do you think? No proof, speculation, I agree, but there's always money to be made in a war. Follow the money. It applies to a lot of things. So we'll see what happens over the next day or so. I may give an update report when we know more. But one thing I do hear, and this is important, and I'll leave you with this, a lot of people are questioning how Trump was actually able to communicate with Iran. Nobody can figure that out. And I was quite busy this morning talking to a few people who don't have any inside information but do know about procedures, and they can't figure it out. So, as I like to say, or has been said for a long time since ancient Greece, is the first casualty in war is truth, but it's also the first casualty when it comes to ending a war. So what I think you should do is focus on what you can control. You can't control this. Don't waste your time with a lot of these people that are pushing agendas. What we do know is the U.S. was far more effective at destroying Iran's military infrastructure, its manufacturing of weapons, and quite a few other things than is generally been perceived. The U.S. is much more effective at military stuff than, it is at other things. Perhaps someday we'll be as good at taking care of our people, health care, food quality, education. All those things will be just as effective as our smart bombs. Won't that be something? That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies. And don't forget they are enemies for a reason, and don't just dismiss them. They could be very dangerous. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World, the deep state, The Islamic Republic of Iran and all insane, religious, crazy people who aspire to have weapons of mass destruction must themselves be destroyed. Good day.